our 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 work as Justice and Beyond has not ended. It is never ended. We continue to fight for those that are in oppressive conditions in a world that is facing injustice, and we will continue to do that. Uh, our governing model is such that we are not dependent upon one or two people, although you may see the beautiful face of Miss Valerie Jefferson being very forward facing, public facing, as mine, as well as two. And so, but we are not led by one or two people. We're led by what we call our pillar system, where there are organizations and individuals that have committed to being part of the vision casting and the planning for justice and beyond, who meet regularly to make sure that we produce a good forum and bring experts into this conversation. That being said, we need your help. We always want to be a Black-led organization. We want to be an organization that involves Black leadership in every way. So we need you, as well as all other allies, to be a part of the important discussions around equity and justice for all people. If you want to be a pillar, let us know that in the chat. I want to be a pillar. Then come to our Tuesday meeting at noon, so that we can put you to work, and so we can continue to fight. And so with that said, as Valerie said, we want to govern ourselves by peace, love, and respect in this setting. And we're happy to have Zoom until one day when we're able to meet again, which we look forward to when that day will happen. And I want to ask everyone who is not one of our panelists to put your phone on mute, so that we will be able to not have any distractions as we hear from our panelists on tonight. And so we have four very esteemed and renowned, world-renowned guests on tonight, and expert panelists. And we are so very excited to be here tonight. And so I'm going to ask each one of them to just give us an introduction. I'm sure most of you don't need any introduction of them, but give us an introduction by way of just telling us what exciting things are happening in your life, and what we just need to know about the work that you're doing. And so I'm going to start off with the lovely, brilliant, beautiful, just amazing, mind-blowing, my sister, Miss Barbara Major.
Thank you. I got to pay you, Pastor. You are good at describing me. I said, if he go to anybody else, I'm going to be a little ticked off. But anyway, good afternoon, everybody. It is good to be here, and it's good to see old and very dear friends. And Ron, I got to say, you looking good, brother. I haven't seen you in 100 years. Bill, you too. I must be the only one aging. But I am an anti-racist community organizing here in New Orleans. And a member of the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, one of the trainers. And they had on the advertisement that I was chairing the board of innovative schools, but I'm not doing that anymore. I left. I've written a book, and I've spent a lot of time on the road promoting a book that really begins to not only look at systemic racism, but push our people beyond thinking we can just survive racism, but we can actually deconstruct racism. And so that has been a lot of my time, and working with Sister Helen Prejean on the anti-death penalty work. But I always tell people, I wish I had a heart like that woman. She is just one of the most amazing people. If she ever gets you, she got you. So doing that and just being around her is amazing and life-giving to me. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing, and enough. Y'all need to know everything I'm doing.
You got to keep some stuff for yourself.
Right, Pastor.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Let's go to Bill Quigley.
Hello, everybody. Bill Quigley. I'm a retired professor from Loyola, and I know a lot of you on the call. I have worked with a lot of you on the call on various organizing efforts for justice, and I continue to work with organizations of people that are fighting for justice, from the up and down the Mississippi River to some of the people in our city to some other people across the country. And Justice and Beyond has always been one of those groups that's done so much. And I have had good fortune of visiting and being involved with Justice and Beyond half a dozen or a dozen times over the last several years, and just a great admirer of the work that you all have done. And I look forward to discussing some of that work with you tonight. So thank you. Reverend Manning, despite having the
You're on mute, Reverend Manning.
World's best voice, you can't get through on mute.
Thank you, Bill. All right, let's go to Ron Wilson.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure being on this distinguished panel tonight, and with people I've known, love, and admire. I haven't seen in a while, like the lovely, intelligent, brilliant Barbara Majors. And it's good to see her again. And Ron Chisom, and Bill. Bill is, I was telling Bill recently that he's my nephew's hero. And my nephew found out that I knew Bill Quigley. My God, I was put in an exalted status. So Bill, you have given me some cachet, Bill. My nephew loves you, but unlike Bill, I'm not 100% retired. I'm about 80% retired. But I'm still touching voting rights cases as they come along. Doing stuff now that I thought a long time ago would be over and done with by now. Yeah, I never thought this ugly head of voter suppression would come back to haunt us again, and it's haunting us now meaner than ever. And we see with the Chisom case, we see with the cases that we're handling now with the reapportionment of the Louisiana legislature, and it's not only are they getting meaner, but they're becoming more blatant. They're not operating on the cover of darkness anymore. So as long as there are cases like that out there, I'll find time to take one or two. And I've been fortunate to be associated with great people and great attorneys. And again, thanks a bunch for inviting me tonight.
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate you being here. Let me ask this. There is some degree of feedback that's going on, and I am not sure what is causing that. I suspect that maybe someone's phone may not be muted. And so I'm going to ask that if you are not speaking, if you would mute your phone during the time that others are speaking, maybe that can help rectify the situation. So let's try that. And I know there are others on our team that are trying to figure that out too, possibly. All right. I'm
sorry, Pastor. I think it's Ron. You just finished speaking. When you were speaking, it was like that. You're not on mute. Mute yours.
Yeah, that maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that did it. Yep, very, very good. Thank you, Ron. All right, let's go to Ron Chisom, the great, esteemed, distinguished Ron Chisom. That is the godfather of undoing racism. Thank you so much for being here, my dear friend. Please let us know what we need to know on tonight.
You're on mute, Ron.
Thank you, Bo.
There you go.
We got you, Bo. Yeah.
I guess, Pastor, I'm very glad to be here with Justice and Beyond. I'm also a part of Justice and Beyond. I'm not just on the panel, and to be here with Barbara and Bill and Ryan and folks from Justice and Beyond, and it's just good to be here. And y'all been staying on the case for quite a long time, and I still do community work. I don't know what they mean when they say retired. That's something, I don't know about retirement, but I find the work has even pick up even more now than ever before, you know, and I think we all need it now than ever before. Because all the work we've been talking about justice and beyond and undoing racism and all that, it's coming more clear that we need to be out here on that front line. So I'm just glad to be a part of this discussion and be part of this team. And, you know, and I'm on the phone because I couldn't get my iPad to work correctly. So I'm holding the phone in my hand. So I don't get a chance to see everybody, which I'd like to see, you know, on it, but I'm glad to be here, Pastor.
It's good to have you. It's always good to just have you in the space and to hear your wisdom. So we are grateful. Yeah. And you are indeed a part of Justice and Beyond, and critical part of Justice and Beyond. Yeah. Let's talk about, for those who don't know, we just want to make sure that people understand who may have some sense of what Chisom versus the state of Louisiana is all about. But some others just may be completely unaware. And so let's just give people a foundation of what the lawsuit is all about. Can we start there with whoever wants to jump in there?
I'll ask Ron and Bill if they could, because them and many other lawyers have played a major role, and they really can help set a context for it if they don't mind. Bill, you or Ron?
I'll defer to Bill, and I'll follow up with a comment or two.
Okay. This case, the Chisom versus Louisiana case, it's named after Ron Chisom. It's brought by Ron Chisom, Mark Morial, a number of the members of the Black Caucus in Louisiana. And it was, we filed it, Ron Wilson and I and a couple other great lawyers filed it in the 1980s to create an opportunity for African-American voters to have at least one person of their choice on the Louisiana Supreme Court. Louisiana Supreme Court has 7 members, and in the 200-year history of the court, there had never been an African-American member, despite, you know, our state being nearly a third African-American. And around the same time, we did the same sort of thing with Quigley, where it was a Major versus Crain, which was to create Louisiana's first African-American congressional district. And that continues to be a very important part of our history. And Quigley and a number of other activists were very much part of that, as was Ron and I. And so the fight for the Louisiana Supreme Court was started by a number of lawyers and judges and map makers, but mostly community members saying, look, the state is a third African-American. How come there's never, ever been a person of color on the Louisiana Supreme Court? And so in the 1980s, we started this suit to challenge that. And up to that time, the Voting Rights Act, which we all know about, which is, one of the key legacies of the 1940s and 50s and 60s, required that no state can dilute the vote of African-American voters. And so we brought that, but the law had not been extended to elections for judges. It applied to school boards, it applied to city council, applied to parish council, but it had never been applied to judges before. So it was an uphill battle. And if you want, there's well over a dozen decisions from the district court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the district court, et cetera, on this thing. But it took us several years, a couple of trips to the U.S. Supreme Court. And finally, there was a legislative compromise reached where the incumbents, the white justices who were on the court, would be allowed to serve out the rest of their terms, but they would create an extra seat, temporary extra seat for African-American people to be able to vote the candidate of their choice. And they voted for Justice Revius Ortigue. And Justice Ortigue was the very first person of color to be on the Louisiana Supreme Court. He was followed by Justice Burnett Johnson, who served 18, 20 years in the position as well. but the reason it's important today, and I'm going to hand it off to Ron to take it from this point on. We fought for years to create this seat, and it is not a black seat. It is a seat that has a majority of black voters in it, so that the black voters can choose a candidate of their choice. So we fought for years to get that, and finally we're able to achieve that with the elections of Judge Ortiz and Justice Burnett Johnson. We fought, we won in the courts, but then some disgruntled white guy in North Louisiana filed suit saying it was all unconstitutional, but we were able to protect it. So we had two major fights, and we thought that was maybe 10 years in, we thought that perhaps that was the end of the fight, that the progress that had been made was made, and we would go on to new fights, try to create new frontiers. And I'm going to flip it over to Ron from there to talk about some of the fights around Justice Johnson, which is exactly coincides with the birth of Justice and beyond. So Ron, can you take it from there?
All right, that's a very crucial point. The battle, the legal battle as to who would become the Chief Justice. And historically, it has been the person with the longest tenure on the bench will become Chief Justice. Well, when it became time for Chief Justice Johnson to become the Chief Justice, they made some strange rules that her initial tenure on the bench didn't count because she was basically a Chisom judge. She had not been elected to the seat as a Supreme Court Justice. What happened? A Chisom seat was created as part of the resolution of the case, and their argument was that the period of time that she spent as a Chisom judge and not a judge elected from a particular district should not count, and this white judge should be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. We litigated that matter, took it to the district court. I mean, it was a fantastic outpouring of community people. I mean, there were great attorneys on the case, but absent the support of the community people who, I mean, there were so many people there, they had to put everyone else in another room. And the people came and expressed their support for Chief Justice Johnson. And at the end of the day, she became the Chief Justice. And it's a very important position over there because Chief Justice gets to decide a lot of things. The staff, for instance, prior to Chief Justice Johnson, he had, for the most part, a staff that did not reflect the city whatsoever. And also and she has a lot to say about ad hoc judges that are appointed to the various courts. And that was significant for minority judges, for Black judges, that they're now getting some of these appointments. So her ascension to the bench was very crucial. But I think we have to keep in mind, if you go back, they were saying the argument against historically justices were not covered by Section 2. And the argument they made was that Section 2 talks about representatives. And they were arguing that judges aren't politicians, judges aren't representatives because they don't have constituents. Well, what we're able to do in the case, we showed some of the literature, some of the campaigns, and some of that literature was as hard biting as that for any other public office. So the court finally came to Ron's concluding that, I think the vote was 7-2 bill. The Supreme Court held that judges were representatives under Section 2. And I'll just say one other thing is that we have to be careful now because there's a new attack on Section 2 saying that Section 2 does not apply to judges. And what they're hoping to do is if they can get Section 2 knocked out as far as judges are concerned, all of the inroads that we've made with respect to the judiciary, will disappear, will evaporate. One thing the judge asked the attorney for the state at the hearing to dissolve, the state has come in to dissolve the consent decree. One thing the judge asked the attorney from the state was, if this is dissolved, will that undo the Chisom decision? And he said, I can't answer that. I can't tell you what the legislature would do. So our point is they would only want to dissolve the decree for one reason, That is to get rid of the Chisom seat. And we're finding out that these legislators in Louisiana are not willing, where possible, to allow at least one Black judge or justice on the bench. We litigated the case in Terrebonne Parish, where historically there'd never been a Black or a female on the court. We won that case, a 91-page opinion by Judge Brady in Baton Rouge, but it went to the Fifth Circuit, and the Fifth Circuit reversed the decision by Judge Brady. So, it's important to look at Chisom and all the other cases that are coming behind to see, how long we can hold on to those seats, and how vigilant we must be in keeping those seats. Because if the powers that be in Louisiana, could have their way, there would be no Chisom seat. They talk about going to a system whereby each judicial district would have the same number of people in it. If they did that, they could really eviscerate or obliterate the Chisom seat. So, Chisom is important from a historical context, and also from where we're going in the future. So we have to fight to maintain Chisom. If not, all the other gains will fall by the wayside.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for that, Ron. Let me ask Ms. Barber, do you want to jump in here?
I'm not a lawyer, no. I'm like Ron. I'll refer to Bill and Ron in terms of the legal piece. But one of the things that is very, very clear is that we have to have amazing, committed, passionate, and brilliant attorneys in the courtroom, but we always have to have people in the street. You can't have one without the other and win this stuff. It also, one of the things, Ron, that spoke to me is the impermanence of our victories, the way that the laws are set up. However, for me, when I look at all this stuff coming at us right now, it says to me that we may not recognize it, but we have them on the run. Because if we didn't, they wouldn't be coming at us the way that they are. So it's up to us to be steadfast and really clear and know that the ground that we've gained can be taken away from us if we're not organizing and we are not continuously building leadership both legally and as community organizers to educate our folks and to really get back on, for me, to get back on the stick of getting people out to vote. Because that seemed to have fallen by the wayside some. And the movement seemed to have come to a conclusion that we can negotiate our way out of this stuff. We sit at the table with these people and they know we're not organized. And so we think we bring in some kind of juice to the table, but we're not. Because as long as they don't think that we will get in those streets, they will continue to try and grab back every victory that we've won. So for me, it's about this impermanence that we always got to keep refighting the same fights. And I am a firm believer is way down the road. The damn Constitution of this country got to be changed, y'all. Mm-hmm. South Africa did it. We got to do it. And I know we don't talk about that because maybe it seems so far, but we've got to talk about it in the midst of the fighting that we're doing, not something else, but it is about the fight that we're always doing. And as I say, the impermanence of it. That's the scary part always for me, that they can come back whenever they want, whenever they think they have enough power to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said about getting in the streets, and it just, to me, that also speaks to the fact that letting those that are responsible for decisions, letting them know that we are paying attention, because so often it looks as if to people that we're not. And if we let people know that we're paying attention, that we will vote you out and that we do vote, and that's a conversation we need to have too. And I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit of what is going on with the lack of voting and the stark just drop off in people that are participating in the democratic process by exercising their right to vote. It's very frightening, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit. But I want to go to Ron Chisom now and see if you want to add anything to what Ms. Barbara and the lawyers have said.
Yeah, Pastor. I just want to affirm what Barbara was saying in reference to working with Bill and Ryan. Barbara and I work with many lawyers over the years, and what we've learned working with Bill and Ryan is that when we went to Bill, even before the Chisom case, we had been working with Bill with dealing with Leander Perez down in Plaquemines Parish. And when it wasn't fashionable to go down there, and Bill would come down there with several other lawyers, and I watched Bill operate. So when Bill and Mark Merrill and others asked me to be a plaintiff, because I was out in the streets organizing with Barbara, and when they brought me in and said, here's what the situation is, and we got 7 white Supreme Court justices, and there's no black representation. In other words, if a black person needs some representation at a state level, we have nobody from a judicial level. And I said, of course. And having working with Bill, most lawyers, even so-called progressive lawyers, you're in a community group asking them for some legal help. And what many lawyers would tell you, okay, I'll give you some legal help, but you got to be quiet. And I couldn't understand that. Here we made noise to get them there. And then a lawyer tell us now, it might mess the case up. Well, hell no, it ain't gonna mess no case up. We got you, because being a lawyer is just another tactic. It's like organizing is a tactic. So Bill understood that. And so I was glad to be a part of the plaintiff. And I was even more excited to know that when the Chief Justice got that position, these 7 white men didn't want to give up no seat. It's gonna make that, they didn't want to give up nothing. And now Chief Justice now is their boss. I love that. It made me excited to know that she's over them right now. And then what was key about it, even to get that seat, we had to organize, bring numbers of people out, and y'all were a part of that as well, Pastor Manning. And even after we got her, the community got it together, when you become a Supreme Court justice, you get a new office. They didn't want to have a new office, so we had to organize against that. It's amazing. But for me, the key is that what Landry is doing, at a state level, he knows exactly what he's doing. Not only trying to get rid of the Chisom case, but he's connected to all that DeSantis dynamic that's going on. But taking African studies out, out of the schools, and there's gonna be a suit to file. They're gonna file it all over the country. That's number one. They also deal with the whole Trump dynamics. It's a plan, and if they can water down the gains we've all made, it's easy for them to come in with some of the foolishness and the racist stuff that's going on. As we were saying, as Barbara was saying, everything we've gotten in our life has been through organizing. It's been through, and we got to accelerate that. We got to accelerate everything we have gotten is through organizing. The other part in reference to the voters registration and the voters education. See, we got to do something more deep on the voters education, because it sounds good, voter registration and voters education. But what we found in our experience when it comes to dealing with a voters education within the Black community, we're not educating around systemic racism. Because we wonder why, we don't go out and vote. Why we really haven't done a good job in really articulating, we're all gonna go vote because we know somebody died for the vote. But at the same time, we got to deepen the way we educate our community about voter registration and voters education. Because right now we talk about systemic racism, and that's the issue right now, that we got to make sure people understand it. And we've found it traveling all over the country. And I think Barbara would affirm that even in the Black community, we don't have a clear understanding what racism is, and we don't have a clear understanding what systemic racism is. And right now, that's why they can do the things they're doing to us within the Black community, because the data still show, in the Black community, we're still at the bottom and white folks are still at the top. And the last thing I would just add to is that Donald Trump, when he got out of office, what he really did, he showed America that racism is not just about hate groups. It's about half of white America is filing the oppressive, this racism stuff. They've been wanting to do it, but now they got a president, you know, and whether we like him or not, whether he's a scrupulous president, once you become a president, you get certain credibility with that. And to me, half white America is following that direction. So to me, he let the world know it's not about hate groups. Matter of fact, we at the Institute, we were doing 8 trainings a month. Now we're doing about 40 a month, you know, and I'm getting ready to actually send him a thank you letter in some ways, you know, but not really. I'm just joking on that. But so anyway, I'm glad to be a part of the organizing effort around the Chisom case, and to be with lawyers and organizers. It's a play, but everything is a fight. Everything is a fight. So I'll stop here and just, you know, at this point.
Yeah, everything is a fight, and we have to be aware of that and continue to keep on fighting and then never let down our guard. Thank you for those words, Ron. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about, you know, that Trump effect is real. We see it every day. It is infectious and so divisive and disruptive and every other diss that you can put on it. And but in regards to the voter suppression, we see what's going on in Louisiana, but as we zoom out all over the United States, because some of us, you know, as well as I do, so many times we're just caught up in our own little piece of the world and siloed, and we don't see the full picture. What did those of us on this call need to be aware of as far as the tentacles of all that the Chisom case affects as far as voter suppression that's going all over the United States? What are we seeing as a current that is and strategically being built out to hurt Black people and take away our rights? What is it that we don't know that you all know? Yeah, I'll just throw that out to everybody, if that question makes sense.
Pastor Manning, one thing I've been following, I've been watching is, it's fantastic to get the rolls up as many people we can to get to vote, to register, and participate. But how they've changed the rules again. At the end of the day, even if we elect someone, they're now enabling their legislatures to remove somebody from office that we've elected. But in Georgia now, there's legislation which says that if the prosecutor is not doing her job, then a commission appointed by the governor or Republicans can remove her from her office. And the purpose of that is the Donald Trump situation. They don't like Fannie Willis, so they would like to remove her from office. You see the same thing in Florida. The governor can remove from office anyone he thinks is not doing the job. And what's your recourse? Your recourse is the legislature, which has a supermajority Republican and goes along with everything the governor says and does. So I think that's extremely insidious. And that's what we have to watch, because a lot of legislatures are going to this. Well, in Wisconsin and in North Carolina, when a Democrat got elected governor, they stripped him of all of his powers. So he had no powers. So they have to find a lot of ways, even if we go to the polls, vote, and we win, and they're not satisfied with our candidates, they can remove them. So we have to keep an eye on that. That's very frightening. Yeah.
That's extremely frightening. Thank you, Ron, for bringing that to light for us. So in that case, what do we do? What is our recourse? Obviously, we have to strive to change the law and the policies that make that allowable. But what else do we do?
I think that Ron and Barbara over the years have taught me and so many others that, change comes about in movements. And there's no solo social justice acts. Everything is a band, everything is a group, everything's an orchestra, and it is movement. So our job really is to do what Justice and Beyond is doing, which is to build and sustain movements of people who are intervening, educating themselves about justice, working with legislators and city council members and the like participating in lawsuits, doing real organizing, which honestly is a lost art, except for some examples that you are very familiar with. A lot of young people these days think that organizing means getting names on a Twitter petition or something on the internet, and it is person to person building of a family and building a structure and building organizations. And a lot of people think, well, in the 50s and 60s, people marched, so we'll have a march and then that will do it. And they don't realize that when people had a march in the 50s and 60s, they were putting their job at risk, they're putting their house at risk, they're putting their family at risk. That it really is an investment of people. And so the powers that be are much more open about their racism than they've ever been. Trump really gave the green light to a lot of things that were, people were sort of embarrassed about, and now they're not embarrassed at all. And it is, how do we as individuals join movements? And what is the movement that I'm going to be a part of? What is the movement that has, one time Ron taught us like the fingers on the hand, you don't know except in reverse. I remember Barbara Major saying this thing is like social change comes about the way you boil water for a big pot of gumbo. You start with at room temperature, you put the heat to it, and you don't see a change, and you don't see a change, and you don't see a change, and people just keep putting the heat to it. And at some point it boils. And that's really terrific. But the problem is that the people who put the heat to it in the last 5 minutes think they did the whole thing. So it's sort of hard for all of us to be a builder and put the heat and build these movements. But that's really the answer for all of our justice issues, I think.
Yeah, that's powerful.
I just want to say, because it's what Justice and Beyond is doing, Pastor Manny. Somebody, I forgot who was, put in the chat that more people are aware of systemic racism. I don't think so. They know the language, but I'm talking everyday people. See, we kind of organize among ourselves, those of us that kind of think we know, or some of us might know. But one of the things that Bill said, and I know me and Ron learned a long time ago, we talking door to door, building relationships with people. Everyday people on the street. We seem to have kind of left them out, or we show up like they ought to just come with us because we know what we're doing. And that hardcore kind of organizing, and Bill, you say it's like family. People that I organize with, I think of Barbara Jackson, Annie Smart, they wasn't just like people, you know what I'm saying? Like Valerie. That's like family. And people don't understand how important, deep relationships are. I don't mean just coming to some meetings. I'm talking lifelong, that kind of commitment. And that's the art of organizing, Bill, that I don't see anymore. People have big events, and that's great. And the people that show up, they're kind of like us, and we talk to each other. We kind of got it. We've read 1,600,000 books, you understand? But we don't have relationships with people where I'm talking, word the heck out of you, might call you at night, learn night, at least they have call ID. I didn't have that back in the day. So you answer the phone, but it is that deep, deep relationship of family. So what you're fighting for is the people next to you, the people you see all the time. That's a different kind of organizing. The kind of organizing I see now is too sterile. That's the only word I could give it. It's intellectualized. It's almost like struggle has been intellectualized. And that to me is that's dangerous for us. That is one of the most dangerous things for us, is not to understand what relationship means with each other when we're doing this work. You all have demonstrated that in Justice and Beyond. And how do we branch that out? But see, I keep telling people the movement, it's like ebb and flow. You ain't gonna win it all at once. You win it sometime, they knock it out and you get back up, but you don't have to get up by yourself. When you build that real piece of movement, somebody gonna always be there with you. The laugh with you when you get your butt kicked, all of that. But that's the kind of organizing we got to do, not just having meetings, but sometimes just sitting down having coffee or sitting down crying on each other's shoulder. But I think a lot more people have heard the language of systemic organizing. But if you just talk to regular folk, I'm talking regular folk, because that's who's gonna make this work. You know, we can write the books, but I ain't gonna make this work. It's gonna be them sisters and them brothers in the street, on the street. That's who gonna make this work.
And Bob, I just want to add, Bob, before we is that, Pastor, the key for us is understanding racism. Like the reason why we talk about racism and systemic racism, because right now people use this as rhetoric. But if we don't understand racism, it'll stop what you're doing. It gets in your way. It stops the women's movement, the civil rights movement, all these movements. So that's why we have discussion about racism. A lot of times when you're dealing with injustice, everybody deals with injustice, but racism don't only create injustice, it creates a pathology. And none of our programs address that. Matter of fact, most programs we develop continue to program people. They don't wake them up. It don't wake them up. So we got to make sure, even in the Black community, we're doing it for over 43 years. We've done it in South Africa. We've done it in Harlem. We've done it in Puerto Rico. And we say what racism is, there's confusion. You know, even the Black community, where it's about hate. That ain't what racism is about. That's a side issue. The real issue is somebody's making money off this arrangement. Well, so we got to have the kind of education, you know, injustice is something we should respond to. As an organizer, I developed a lot of leadership, but you can't just develop leadership. Now you have to understand what accountability means. Leadership by itself won't work. So organizing is what do you do? A lot of groups work on issues. Those are important, but the issues are used to develop people, not to respond to what we call the issue syndrome. So to us, organizing, anti-racist organizing, and like you say, like Barbara say, people use the word systemic, can't define it. We don't operate on systemic analysis. We operate out being a victim analysis, or a do-good analysis, or something called a white man's burden analysis. So we got to take care of them folks because they really can't take care of themselves. That's what's happening. And what happened in the Black community, we operating similar to where white people operate. You know, we can have an all Black group, but it's dictated from a white agenda.
Wow, powerful, powerful. And sometimes Ron and everyone else, you know, one thing I've learned from the 4 Undoing Racism conferences that I've been a part of and hope to have participated in many more, was that sometimes we unknowingly, with the best of intentions, participate in racism or systemic racism while being well-meaning. And one of the things I learned is even writing our grants, you know, we put, you know, this is a disenfranchised community, or this is a underserved community.
At risk.
Yeah, right. We got the best of intentions to get us some money, but at the same time, we are falling right into the agenda that has been written for us.
It's no accident that I looked at the Greater New Orleans Foundation. They might be great and all that, but ain't none of these foundations funding organized. They funded programs. None of them. And I'm talking not just the foundations here in New Orleans, I'm talking about nationally. That's no accident to me. It's like we've been programmed, not that the programs are bad, but if your program don't lead to the people, you building the capacity of the people to be self-determined, then I think your program ought to be shut the hell down. Because all it do is just keep feeding the same old cycle. And it's good. Some folk got some jobs, and I ain't saying you ain't help a family, but the organizing is what's going to bring us where we got to go. And that's not going to be easy. But I looked at it, I said, these are all great, but nobody funding organizing. Nobody. If y'all find some, let me know. I ain't looking for no money, but I could tell them where they could put some, like Injustice and Beyond, to do some, you know, like one of the groups I work with, people upset because I said, no, you don't get no 501c3. Now you can get one over here, but you need to have an independent entity that can take on some stuff a 501c3 can't. You understand? We got to be more critical in our thinking. And we think because you ain't gonna solve the problem of racism and injustice with no nonprofit organization. That is not going to happen, folks. I'm just saying. Not that they bad, but it's not going to happen.
And Barbara, because as Barbara said, when that 501c3 came about, people were doing activist work. And then when they got the 501c3, they got deactivated. and straight up, because, so you got to have another entity. But we all learn that because everybody wants a 501c3.
I didn't know.
You didn't know, but you learn from that, And last piece, Pastor, is that when we do this work, justice work, organizing, what racism has done to all of us has dehumanized all of us. So when we talk about doing anti-racist organizing, we talk about it, whatever you're working on is supposed to bring humanity back to your team. Because you can have a team of people work together and will turn on each other. Because racism creates that internalized piece that we never address. Anytime, that's what started with me in New Orleans when I started 40-some years ago. They entry me, I'd bring 40, 50 brothers and sisters downtown to raise hell because of the injustice. And all of a sudden we come back to our meeting and we turn on each other. And I didn't understand that. I thought it had something to do with I need to get better skills. But I realized if I get skills and I don't deal with racism, I can become a skillful racist. So I didn't understand internalized oppression, and I'm still learning. That's something that Bob and I, we teach all this, but we only touched it. That stuff is so in depth, how it makes us, we talk about the crabs in the barrel, but it ain't about the crabs in the barrel, it's about the barrel that we never study.
Yes. We got about 5 minutes before we open it up to questions. What do we need to do as those listening on this call? And we know part of it, organizing is educating. And as we get educated, we learn how to mobilize and to take action and sometimes agitate. Where do we need to take from this conversation to know how we can get engaged, to build those relationships, to sit down at the table with people, to make our voices heard? Where do we go from here now that we know a little bit more about the Chisom versus state of Louisiana? What can those on this call do?
So I would just remind the group that this group was founded to support Justice Johnson when people were trying to, deny her the right to step forward. That's the roots of the group. And because no other group would do it. And so I think in terms of specific actions, I think what Ron and Barbara are telling us is that this undoing racism work for all of us is lifetime work and lifetime education and re-education, because we are being educated in the power of Trump and power of the bankers and the power of the money and the power of the white paternalism, the old farts like people older than me running for president. It's unbelievable, right? And we do have to respect the young people and their energy and their passion, which they, as was pointed out in the comments, have really fueled the George Floyd protests. And they have a sense of justice and they have a sense of injustice and a sense of rage, and to work with them, take some leadership from them, but also be willing as a family to realize that all of us in these relationships, we give and we take, that we, the young people can inspire us and turn us on to new things, but there are also things that people on this call and this sort of organization can help others, so that it's not just a march or not just a week of rage, that it is the building of a counterweight to the police state, to the capitalist state, to the racist state, to the way these all are intertwined. Now, specifically in terms of this case is waiting a decision in the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is located downtown in New Orleans. And a lot of people showed up for that hearing. And really sent a message to the court that this is not just a case. This is about racism, and it was very clearly articulated in the arguments. But we don't know what the next steps are going to be. But when the next things happen in the court, we will ask Justice and Beyond for your help, and for other organizations as well, to turn out, to help out, to research, to do that sort of stuff that happens in court. But as you know, the underlying thing for all of these things, as Ron Wilson knows, and is that this justice is never achieved. It is won, and it can be taken away. And there are millions of people trying to take this stuff away from to not just say you don't go forward anymore, but to say it's time to go backwards. It's time to say we've had enough of this. It's time to say we shouldn't have our kids studying this. We shouldn't allow these books. We shouldn't allow these courses. We shouldn't allow kids. We shouldn't allow teachers. We shouldn't allow trans people, and not just in terms of race, but in terms of every way that they can split us and divide us and try to hold on to their power. So we will, report back once we know, so that we can figure out what the next steps are. But it's I think just being vigilant and what you're doing, educating, right, constantly re-educating and fighting.
And for me, Pastor, one of the things that struck me recently, I don't know where I was speaking somewhere, and I said something about what we deserve. And that resonated. I said it because I believe it. But apparently I realized we're not saying that enough to people. That we deserve to be treated like human beings, that we deserve decent housing, that we deserve access to health care. And because we get caught up in the like fighting that issue, but not saying to folk, we deserve this, and I'm with Bill, everything. And we really got to deal with, like for me in my own community, I got to deal with the homophobia in my own community, and I'm going to call them out on it. You understand? That's part of my responsibility. And anybody else on here Black, I'm telling y'all now, y'all supposed to be doing that, because we'll get caught up in some of our, I don't care. Bottom line is there ain't no buts to this stuff. I believe in people's rights if they're Black, but not if they're gay, or not if they're a woman. But one is, as organizers, and I have had a lot of losses, but I know the gains that I had to do with, one, I believed that my people deserved more than what they were getting. And one of the things that as organizers, as organizations, we have a responsibility to always bring hope to the community, not just the fight. Because in the hope, let me tell you, when I first come into St. Thomas, the one thing that blew my mind, I asked the children in that community, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? The furthest, the kid that wanted to go the furthest was California. I was like, Dad, my babies don't dream no more. They don't even can't dream of a world. And so that's part of our responsibility as organizers, not just bring what we fighting about, but what we fighting for. You know what I'm saying? And I may not be articulate because this is off the cuff, but I know for a fact that we've got to be the one. And Pastor Manning, you are very good at that. I'm talking about you as a human being, because I don't know if it's part of your own spiritual self or whatever, but when I've heard you speak, you don't just speak of the problem, but you speak of the possibilities. And see, that's old-fashioned organizing me. I ain't just going like, oh, we got rotten ass housing. No, we deserve to have better housing. We can have better housing. We got to do this to get it, though. You understand? So everybody got responsibility. So one is to bring that the essence of dreaming, and out of dreaming for me is born hope, and the fact that people deserve to live better, be better, and have access to everything everybody else has.
Amen.
If I may have 1 second, Pastor.
Please, yes, please.
Just 1 second. It's that I think Bill will probably agree with me. Once upon a time, we looked upon the courts to save us. We thought that any wrong, any injustice, just file a petition and the court will take care of us. The Fifth Circuit was famous, you know, for vindicating rights of Black people. We can't do that anymore. You know, the courts ain't going to save us. The courts are not going to throw us a life raft. You know, we have to do it ourselves. If we think Clarence Thomas is going to cast a deciding vote to extend our voting rights, you know, we forget about that. So what the message I want to leave is, you know, nobody can save you like you can save yourself. And we can't depend on the courts the way we once did.
Absolutely. And Pastor, I just want to say in the close that, like Barbara, I'm an organizer and I got to bring hope. I can't say I want to help you, but I'm hopeless. It doesn't make, because people can feel that. Things get rough. You got to take a break. And as we say, you don't get burned out. You might get tired. You know, we say the word burnout is not a good word. You know, but sometimes our vision is not clear what we're doing. But to me, I got to bring hope to people, and I can't be hopeless. So, and I got to, when I'm doing something, I got to be understanding. I'm not doing something for somebody. I'm in partnership with that person. Whatever I do for somebody, it reciprocates helping me. There's too many people want to help other, like, you know, like a social worker. Social work is very, very important, but they're also in the business of, I'm helping you. It's a helping profession, but I'm getting help too from the community. It's reciprocates back. And then when partnership is a real important word. When you're in partnership, it makes a big difference. So anyway, I'm just excited to be a part of the work you all are doing with Justice and Beyond.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. You all, you make me want to run and shout and do flips and just shout hallelujah. Y'all just speak so eloquently and preach and espouse such incredible words of wisdom that just fill me up and everybody on this call. So I'm sure there are several questions. I'm going to hand it over to the amazing, fabulous Valerie Jefferson to handle some questions for us at this time before we close this up. Valerie, we got some questions.
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the chat. I see comments. I seen one question, but Bill answered that question. So do anybody? I see their hands going up now. So okay. I see the hand, Belinda hand and Raymond. I'm asking everyone, please make your statement, your concern, your question. Stay within 2 minutes. Because we want the speakers to have adequate enough of time to answer your questions and your concerns. So please stay within 2 minutes. The first one I see is Belinda, Miss Belinda. Then next we have Mr. Raymond Sweets. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Pastor Manning. This has been great. I'm sorry I came in late, but I've been getting some calls about how great this meeting has been. And I had to jump on here. I do have a question, and good to see you, Mr. Bill Quigley. I'm happy to know that you're still out here in the fight for us. It's a pleasure to have you grace us with your presence. But my question is what is it that we can do to connect the organizations that do this type of work on a more systemic basis? Is it something that we need to do that can educate and connect the organizations that do this type of work with the information that you guys has been giving out here today? And I just want to say, I formed my organization in 2007, and I was determined not to be a not-for-profit organization due to the fact that it just had been overrated. So just to hear you guys say some of that stuff, because at that time I did not know that, but it's been a tremendous impactful information just to hear you talk about that.
I'll just say real quickly is that what I found, I work with so many, I've been a part of so many organizations coming up, and I work with so many different groups. And what I found is that the groups don't always have a common language or common analysis. That's one thing I've found. Most organizations operate out of people's needs, and needs are important, but we never understand what creates these needs. And so when we go do our work with organizations, we make sure they come up with common language, a common analysis, and they really begin to understand what systemic analysis is about. So that's been very helpful to a lot of groups that we work with over the years.
What Ron said. And part for me, Belinda, is even being able to get the groups together. See, sometimes we lose people and organizations, and that's okay, because an organization is just to get something done. But when you build a relationship, even across organizational lines, organizations, this is what I'm focused on, this is what I'm going to do, that's cool. And I think to have the fluidity to say, sometimes we may not be able to work on the same things, but what are those things we can work on together? And as Ron said, we don't even know what we can work on together, because we talking at each other oftentimes, may even be saying the same thing, but we say it differently. Therefore, we don't even know we're saying the same thing. So I think common language is absolutely, Ron's absolutely right. And the fact that whether or not groups are willing to, those groups that are willing to come together, then try to bring them together and say, how can we amass the kind of power that it's going to take? Now, everybody's not going to come, but you don't feel bad about that. What I say to folks is, I'm going to love you, but you're going to sit on this side of the road right now, because we got some work to do. Because I tell them 2 places I ain't going to go, back and forth. Because that's what we end up doing in all these meetings. You understand? We go at each other, but we don't get nowhere. So we understand. And one of the things that we've learned, and I actually, Ron taught me, is that when we have these gatherings, we need to have some ground rules. Like that's one of the things Valerie said when we came on here, look, we're going to have some respect for each other. And ground rules, folk who are not willing to abide by the ground rules, baby, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing if it's working for you. But how many of us can come together and create what I'll call a covenant, to say we're going to stick to this covenant? You know what I'm saying? In terms of how we treat each other, the fact, and somebody said, I love the anger in young people. But one of the things that I also understand, for myself, when that anger, one, is unacknowledged, it turns into rage. And that rage don't always come out. We end up vomiting on each other. How do we take that anger and help young people use it as a fuel? Because it's not just the ones in the street who are angry. It's the ones sitting in their house angry that we've not even touched yet. So my thing is, when there are folk, when we can come together. If we can come together as sororities and fraternities and all that, fine nine, how come we can't come together as community organizations? What's wrong? Ain't nothing wrong with us. Sometimes we just don't ask.
That's right.
That's true.
I'm asking because I need help. I know I think we'll be more powerful and get more respect that we deserve if we were have a more stronger united front in our efforts. So I really appreciate what you all saying.
Thank you, Belinda. It's Ron. Ron about to say something, Belinda.
No, real quickly, is that we can't have a united front if we don't know what has divided us. Mm-hmm. Because what we found that if you're the organizer, one of the most difficult things that we found universally is trying to bring people together. Mm-hmm. Difficult thing. Every group has that problem, bringing parents together, bringing us together. But it's amazing how when it's time to get grant money, we can do the most comprehensive thing to get a grant. Mm-hmm. When it comes to organizing our community, we do it haphazardly. So if you're the organizer, the piece that you got to really understand is that being an all-Black group, well, we said we didn't got to deal with racism, but you're dealing with the effects of racism in an all-Black group. Because what's going to happen, the internalized oppression is going to play out. Y'all come together. If you get them together, then it might take you 2 years to get them together. Because of the internal fighting, you will break up in a matter of minutes. And it wound up not being a nonprofit community organization. It'd be a nonprofit, what we call a clique. We call it cliquism. 3 or 4 people come out there, they run a community organization, and with 3 people in the organization.
Right.
But it can be done. It can be done. Go ahead, my sister.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Raymond. Sweet.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing, Miss Major, Brother
Hey,
Chisom?
hey, how you doing, my brother?
All right, good,
Hey,
good.
my baby.
How you feeling?
I'm
All right, I'll
good.
be quick. So I want to talk about trying to change direction a little bit, just to get some insight or your feelings, your thoughts, and how we should deal with it. So my question is about something you talked about earlier, Ms. Major, about the organizing being kind of on a sterile set. Also, something that I found out that there was a stardom that people felt a few summers ago, and they would come dress up to the space, give their speech, and then leave the space. And they really weren't there to help move or take action. They were there to be seen. It was just a strange thing. Well, Angela and Malcolm and all of them were out there fighting and carrying on. And then this new group of people who've never seen before, they probably have seen other cities on stage and becoming going viral. And it just seems like that becomes a thing. And even, and not to disparage, this is the second part, not to disparage Ben Crump, even the Ben Crumps, when they get people all fired up, then what? You got all this movement, then what? And how do we keep ourselves pure, not necessarily sterile, but from some of that other foolishness, like you say, is definitely an impact of white supremacy, but we do still need to deal with it. And what's the best way to kind of, one, keep me from being critical of it, and then two, helping us stay the course and not get into our stardom of organizing.
As an old organizer, it's like we've had people drop in, the famous ones and all, and they're gonna do that. That's not, don't even direct your energy there. They, you know, they gonna draw the flies. That's just the nature of it. But you keep doing and building a relationship with the core group of people that you have in the community. And the thing that Ron said is that all of you are on the same page with the same language and the understanding, one, that this is a very long struggle. Like, your generations from me. And I'm just grateful to see you there, because I ain't gonna be here always. It's like, so how do you build, I guess, Raymond, that relationship where them brothers and sisters and non-binary, whoever, how do you build a relationship with that core group for real, that they ain't gonna leave you? You know, when all the famous ones show up. See, when you're in a relationship and they understand that you are a family of strugglers, of organized for the long term, don't even focus about what they're doing over there. They're gonna do that. You
That's
keep
right.
building your base. You strengthen your base and keep expanding your base. Because see, the famous ones, they ain't going in the hellholes and grab the brothers and sisters out of there and say you worth it and you deserve better. That's your job. But don't, because that becomes a distraction. You know, all them other folk, they do what they do. But you keep building your base, and your base keep getting clearer. Because like Ron said, we still on this journey, because we all walking a road we never traveled before, y'all. This ain't like we got it. I still make plenty of mistakes and stuff. But what I do know is I'm not gonna let all that commotion over there distract me, because we need them. Go do your stuff, whatever you gotta do. But my job is to be with my folk and build my folks' capacity. Always, always, always.
Hey, bro,
take it somewhere. You don't want
bro, and Brother Raymond, those people come by like that. We call those are drive-by speakers. You know, these talking about like drive-by shootings. That's a drive-by speaker. You have to understand that. But Raymond, do you see yourself as an organizer?
I mean, yeah, but not to that extent where people do a lot of stuff that I don't do. But I appreciate those folks a lot.
But no. If when you critique someone because of what they're doing, in a way, because it's not right what they're doing, you have to understand. You're an organizer. You're being a black man. You're an organizer, and you got to know what it means to be an organizer. It means you bring people together for a purpose and intent. You also develop leadership. And Brother Raymond, you got to read the room. You see, because when you get distracted, there's something you got to be doing you're not doing, because you get thrown in different directions right now. But you got to stay on the case. And then you got to have indicators, what we call human indicators, that you know you're doing effective work. Most people count and get data, but as an organizer, as a humanistic organizer, you can get 3 people. You got to develop that base, because you're getting pulled away from them. You know, they want you to get distracted, go another direction. But you got to recognize you're an organizer. And once you understand that you're an organizer and that you're an anti-race organizer, then what is your qualifications? What is your credential? You got to know all of this, you know, and we at some point we can spend some time together, all of us, talking about that, because organizing is what's got you to be able to speak your voice the way you're speaking it right now. It's somebody open the doors for you to be able to say that right now. So we have to have more discussion of what your role is as an organizer. And you can't be quenchy like, I ain't sure. I'm not, you know, I'm an organizer.
Claim it.
Yeah, you got to claim it, bro, because and then the people can feel you. And then just like them speakers, what they did, the people that you work with will draw to you because they know you clear what you're doing, because they're feeling it, the vibes are there. But you got to get clear about that as possibly as you can. And I know Barbara, myself, and others, and Bill, we'd be glad to add that, whatever we add our 2 cents, because I'm still learning. I'm in my 80s. I'm still learning. It's a learning process. So keep that in mind, Brother Raymond.
And Brother Ron and Ms. Barbara, I don't know what Raymond talking about. Everybody on this call knows he's an organizer. He knows that.
Yeah. and see, Pastor,
and he got to claim it.
We
need you. Let me tell you. Let me say it like this, Raymond. We need you to claim it.
Yeah.
I got a young brother on it. I need you to claim it.
That's
now,
right.
which you may not feel so secure in, but you need to claim it. But just like I said, we all walking this road. I don't know everything. You claim it, and what you do is you seek out, you learn, and in the process, it's okay not to know everything. Nobody does. But
That's
claim that role and find out what does having that role mean. What and be all right with making mistakes. See, because one thing about Black folk, we think we can't make no damn mistakes. Yeah, we can. They've been making on them for hundreds of years. We can make our own now. You understand? Like they say, who was that? Cat Williams? Some people need a second chair. Some people need a third, fourth, and a fifth one. And that's all right. But you got, as long as you got people that got your back, it's going to be all right. You fall on, like what I say, you fall on, you get up, you keep on going. But I dare you to say you ain't no organizer.
Yeah. And
you ain't as sharp as you want to be, but neither am I. Yeah.
And look at Brother Raymond. For other people to say, "Oh yeah, we all know you're organizer," and you saying, I'm kind of there's something's wrong with that dynamics. Everybody around you see you a serious organizer. Then you got to be clear what that really means, because what happened if everybody see it, because you're doing a lot of things with what that means, then you want to be disorganized, and even though everybody see you as an organizer, so you recognize it yourself and what that means right now, because that you got to acknowledge that. You know, it's not to be ashamed. Be proud of it, man. We need more organizers out here. So anyway, you know, you need to claim that, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we had David, Mr. David, Pastor Manny. David will be the last one. We have David here, the last one.
I'll bless you guys, Dave Capasso. Ray, I feel the same way. We feel almost like we're rusty organizers that are looking to get back in it and get a good drive and get it going. But what Ron Chisom said is the language, the unifying language, to me, has been lost. And here it is. Racism is a disease, discrimination, a disease, union busting, as Ron Wilson knows very well, is a disease. And when we target and we see those people that are being targeted, whether it's a librarian or whether it's a person who's taken away our voting rights, if we can come together and say Justice and Beyond and other groups, we are going to take on that disease. We're going to take it on with organizing. And of course, we need the senior organizers to help educate and help us become better organizers. But I want to say to Bill, don't you think that a drive like Unite Here, organizing the cafeteria workers at Loyola and their big victory about to come out, don't you think we could piggyback on something like that and say, why do you think these women, all African-American women, are being low wage? You know, I mean, the old days, they used to say that when you feed the poor, they call you a Christian. When you question why they're poor, they call you a communist and shut up. So wouldn't we be glad to just one good drive, we can piggyback on that and say, now we're going to target that discrimination. We're also going to target this racism and that, and we're not going to rest until we come together to target all racism and all injustice, because it is a disease. But I'm going to ask Bill, what is going on with that Unite Here drive? And do you think that that could be something that we could piggyback on?
So thank you for the question, David. And thanks for telling me about it, because as I said, I haven't been an active part of Loyola for several years right now. I'm still active in a lot of other community stuff. So, but to know about it is great. I would love to support it and hear some more about it. That's, I think, one of the things Belinda was talking about earlier is, you know, we can be very close to things and not be connected. And that's where I think the genius of Justice and Beyond is getting the chance to educate ourselves about things that are sometimes in our own backyard and we don't even know about it. So I'll take a look at that. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, next we're going to turn over to Pastor Manning. We are at 6:25. This is a friendly reminder that please put your information in the chat so you can be added to the email. And also, if you are interested in joining the Pillars, which I'm sure Pastor Manning gonna tell you about, and I'm just jumping the gun, so don't charge my heart, charge my mind and my brain, Pastor Manning. You are welcome to join the Pillars. You just put your information in the chat, and Brooke will contact you. Thank you, Pastor Manning.
You never jump in the gun, Valerie. Thank you so much. You are my co-partner in this, and I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I just 1 minute. I just have to give a shout out to my mentor, my big sister, Sister Majors. She came in when I came in. I was a little lad, and I came in working at RTA. She was on the RTA commissioner, and she became the chair, and she gave us a voice. She listened to the people and the employees, and I want to thank you, Miss Majors, for that. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm glad to be arm in arm with you. I thank you.
And you're doing a great job, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie. You were excellent as a moderator, too.
Yes.
Got all kinds of
Thank you, everyone, especially our guests, expert panelists, and the wealth of wisdom and knowledge and just experience and so much that you've given to us tonight and taught us tonight is so much more that we are eager to learn and stand alongside you as we grow together and as we just become stronger organizers all together. So thank you, Ms. Barbara Majors. Thank you, Brother Ron Wilson, Mr. Bill Quigley, and Mr. Ron Chisom. We are just so grateful that you took time out of your busy schedules to be here with us tonight. And we're going to do more of this as we stay the course and continue to fight against racism. So with that said, we're going to have to wrap it up tonight, unfortunately. And so I'm going to ask if there are any any announcements that anybody has for us tonight. That is events that we need to be aware of. Certainly be aware that this Saturday is Earth Day. We need to be very mindful of the fact that we've been given this earth to be good stewards of, and that we face an existential crisis, and that is the crisis of climate change. Our globe is getting warmer and warmer, and if we don't get this under control, then nothing else matters, and climate change affects every system that we have that we're operating within, and we've got to remember that. So get involved in a climate change action this Saturday. Participate, whether it's a cleanup or whether it's a discussion whatever it might be, get involved in it on Saturday, Earth Day. Are there any other announcements?
Yes, Pastor. I do have a couple announcements. I would like for everybody to put August the 5th on their calendar. That's August the 5th, 2023. I would be giving more information. It's going to be an awareness community forum on DCFS, that's Department of Children and Family Services. We expect to have a lot of our representatives there to discuss the operations and procedures of DCFS, especially when families have complaints and concerns about the process. On this Tuesday, which would be tomorrow at 6 o'clock, on domestic violence, we're going to have an awareness meeting. It's going to be here on the North Shore in Slidell at Living the Word International with Pastor Weathersby. We're going to be inviting our sheriff and our law enforcement and district attorney, a lot of our department heads, to talk to our community about domestic violence. That is a serious thing that's happening in our communities right now. And we need to educate and bring this awareness to the community of the traps that have been set when people are facing these type of situations. So it's going to be a really good opportunity. That's 6 o'clock tomorrow night at Living the Word. I'm gonna paste it on my Facebook page, and I would also send it to I think Brooke, maybe so that we can Liz or someone, Pastor Manning, I had called you earlier today.
Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna call you back. Don't worry.
Okay, great. I'll make sure you get that information, especially about the meeting tomorrow and also August the 5th. Put that on the date. That is going to be a very important meeting.
Thank you, Sister Belinda. Appreciate that. And I will call you back. Anyone else? Any other announcements?
As I said in my chat, this Saturday, 50420 Festival at Armstrong Park. You want to talk about the war on marijuana, discrimination against a plant? How many African Americans, how many Black and brown people are arrested, targeted? This is not a joke. How do the young people see this society when they see the hypocrisy of this issue? And they're still playing games about it. So this Saturday, Armstrong Park, come show your love and let my people grow, as I say. And I have to say before I leave, Bill Quigley, you're the reason why I'm still in this state. And one day I'll have a drink and have to take you behind the bar and tell you how I feel about that. But thank you, man, for telling me to go to law school and stay in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Any announcements?
Yes. We have an announcement for you're invited to an exclusive story circle hosted by the New Orleans Musicians Clinic. And I'm unable to get it into the chat because I don't have it up. So, but I suppose you can look on the Musicians Clinic's website and find that. If I had more time, I'd do that.
All right. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you.
All right.
David put his information in the chat too, Pastor.
David Capasso? Yep.
Yeah.
Could you put that information in the chat, David? We appreciate it.
I did.
Any other announcements, everyone? All right.
Yes, Pastor. The NAACP New Orleans branch will be having our Freedom Fund banquet June the 24th at Xavier University from 7 to 10. And you can get the information and your tickets through the NAACP NOLA Freedom Fund Banquet and Eventbrite. I put it in the chat. Thank you all. We appreciate y'all's support. And also our speaker of the event would be, hurry up, girl, will be Dr. Sean Wilson, will be the keynote speaker.
All right. Dr. Sean Wilson, who's running for governor?
The candidate for governor. Yes, he is. That's the one.
Very good. All right. Very good, everybody. We're going to have to conclude it there, mainly because I have a 6:30 meeting that I'm running late for. So I would like to close in prayer. And as we go our own way today. Continue to fight, continue to stand strong, continue to build relationships, continue to believe that we are making change and that we are consistently having victories and celebrate those victories. God, I pray that you will strengthen everyone on this call, oh God, to envision a new future, to fight when they call, to stand up, to fight, to agitate when necessary, but to consistently engage themselves in building those relationships, to be participatory in collaborating and collectively joining together, and not building our own silos or our own actions, but to considering it a privilege to dwell for this appointed time on this earth, to count it all joy, to do life together with one another. Help us to find our common places and to be able to stand with great resolve to help the least of these. I ask this in the name of Almighty God and my Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. God bless you all. Thank you for joining us. All right.
Amen. Y'all be safe. God bless you.